Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to our peer-to-peer session, Financing for Entrepreneurs, How to Make, Save, and Invest Money. This session forms part of the peer-to-peer series with New Bedford Creative. My name is Marianella Perry. I am the Senior ARPA Fellow here at New Bedford Creative. Thank you all for joining us today. I would like to introduce our guest speaker, filmmaker and content creator, Ethan De Aguiar, who will be talking to us about a few finance topics that will be beneficial to self-employed artists. Now I'll pass it over to him so he can share more details of who he is and what he will present to us today.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. This is awesome. I'm going to keep it simple about me. I'm a filmmaker from New Bedford. I'm super passionate about what I do in this area. And I'm also very passionate about killing the idea that to be successful, you have to be a starving artist. I want to switch the narrative to being a thriving artist. So with that, I tried to keep this presentation kind of generalized so that no matter what kind of artistic medium you're in, you can take this knowledge and run with it in multiple fields. But also with that generalization, I might not be able to give you specific answers, which is why I want to try to keep this short and sweet so we can get to the Q&A section faster and have more time for that, because I think that's where we can really get targeted answers to your questions about your particular projects or businesses. All right, so let's get right into it. I'm going to break it down into 3 sections. It's going to be taxes, which is going to be very short because it's boring stuff. Pricing and negotiating with clients, which is going to take up the majority of the presentation. And then the last little bit is just investing. So with taxes, I am in no way, shape, or form a certified tax expert. So take everything that I say with a grain of salt, but I just want to share some of the experiences I've had that can help you just to basically, I just want to make the case that investing in a good accountant is a solid investment and it is a game changer for your business and your life. So with that, everybody likes to put president, CEO of their business, but they forget that they're also the CFO, the chief financial officer of their business. So you are in charge of everything, creating multiple streams of revenue, delegating where that revenue should be spent. So some of the things I've learned are one of the most important things you can do with any creative business is making sure that you have solid contracts. So you want to make sure that you get everything down on paper so that there's no confusion. You eliminate the possibility of having that headache at the end of a project where a client's like, well, this isn't what we talked about, or I thought you were doing this or that. You have everything written down on paper. And that way, if you get clients that kind of try to add stuff, along the way and things like that, you have a set contract with a set amount, and anything else after that is extra so that you're not getting taken advantage of. And that's not to say that that this is the real world and every client acts like this, but it's nice to prepare yourself and protect yourself so that you can just focus on making what you make and the money keeps coming in so that you can enable yourself to keep going. And then with the responsibilities of CFOs, you should keep meticulous bookkeeping records with really, like I said, meticulous invoicing. Invoice every single project. There's plenty of templates out there for contracts and invoices where you you're giving your information, the client's information, and then you're not a super detailed list of the line items, but everything that went into that project. So if I'm filming, I'm not saying like I edited, 2 hours for music and 2 hours for color grading and this and that, but just break it down for you, because that's helpful not only for the client to see where their money is going, but it's helpful for you to see, maybe you didn't estimate a job correctly the first time. So now you see, well, that actually had more work go into it than I initially thought. So it just helps you keep things in perspective and break things down a little bit better. And the other aspect of that bookkeeping is with expenses. And this is where a CPA can really help you, especially when tax season comes around. But the advice that a good accountant is going to give you is going to help you out throughout the year, where you can position yourself to do things throughout the year that are going to help you when tax season comes around. And those, TurboTax and those self-tax places aren't going to help you with that. They're not going to tell you what you're missing out on. For example, I never knew that I could turn one room in my apartment into my office and then write that off at the end of the year instead of, spending money to rent out an office. I'm already renting this apartment. I turn one of my rooms into an office and I get all the benefits of having an office tax-wise without the extra expense of having another place to rent. So things like that. I mean, like I said, getting yourself an accountant is invaluable and it's worth the investment. All right, so now we can move on to the pricing and negotiating stuff, which is what I know everybody wants to know. One of the hardest things to figure out as a creative, especially, is finding your value and what you should charge and how to communicate that to clients. And I think one of the first most important questions that we can ask ourselves is, how do you define success for yourself? Because everybody is different. Everybody has different goals. If your success means, having more money so you can live a certain lifestyle, or having more money so you can employ more people and grow your business, or having more time so you can spend time with family, whatever you define as your success, figure that out first, because that's the target that you're going to aim for. And that's how you're going to guide your ship of your business towards that with every move that you make. So as far as finding your value, you got to just be honest with what your skills and abilities are. And then this would be the only time that I would condone comparing to other people. But it's nice to look at peers in the same industry that you're in and just see, have an idea what they're charging, have an idea where you rank in level with them. But really your only competition is the you from yesterday. So as long as you're constantly improving and constantly trying to outdo yourself and grow as an artist, you'll eventually rank up and provide more value for your business because you're providing more value for yourself. I'm not going to get too much into a portfolio because that'll be covered in a later class that we're doing with marketing and storytelling. But basically, your portfolio should have like 5 to 10 pieces of work that are very targeted for the types of clients that you're looking for. So just because, I made like this cool music video and I really like it, but if it's not appealing, if I don't want to do music videos, I'm not going to put that on my portfolio because it's going to attract other people that want music videos. So just make sure that everything that you're putting in your profile or portfolio is geared towards attracting that type of clientele. And, for video people, it's easier because you can kind of compile everything into like a reel, a highlights reel. For other people like, photographers, it's really hard you can't exactly put together a highlight reel because then it ends up just being a fancy slideshow. But you could always talk a little bit about the project and, the objective of the project, how it was working with the client, the experience, some things you learned, stuff like that, just to give a little bit more story to that portfolio piece. But if you get like your 5 to 10 best pieces, that's one of the best ways that you can first start to market yourself. And then, so I spent some time thinking about this because this is very hard to kind of convey to people, but there's a big difference between the cost of you doing business and the value it brings to clients, and then a big difference between the salary that you pay yourself and the profit that your business makes. And I think so I'll start. Cost is the literal cost of what it is to do business. What, in my case, it's what my cameras cost, what my lighting costs, audio equipment, what it costs to rent anything that we need for a particular shoot, or hire, extras or actors or anything like that. Those are initial costs, and those are easy to figure out because you have the price, you add up the total, you present that to the client. This is the cost for all this. The value is harder to determine because that is more what is all the cost of, making this production, but the value that I bring with my knowledge and abilities, what value is that bringing to the client? That's harder to determine. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's something that you're going to be working on your entire creative career. I've been 3 years in this business. I'm getting paid like crazy amounts of money compared to when I first started, and people are still telling me I don't charge enough. So I think it's one of those things that you got to kind of just reevaluate at least every 6 months to a year. And you're only really going to get close to a number once you do it more and you see what clients are willing to pay and things like that. But I think somewhere between what it costs and what the value is that you bring lives the salary and the profit. Salary is what you pay yourself, what you think you're worth for the, taking the ingredients of all that cost stuff and using your knowledge and particular skills to make a unique product. And then the profit is just what your business makes. So you're in complete control of that. For me personally, I like to take as little salary as possible. I make sure all my bills are paid, which I'm sure everybody wants. And then, things like I get to go to the grocery store and I don't care how much eggs are. I'm just going to buy them because I want them. And that's how I determine my salary, and everything else just gets set aside to get put back into the business, whether it's investing, whether it's rainy day fund, whether it's hiring employees, whatever it is. And I know that doesn't answer a lot of questions on how to find your value, but that's basically what I can boil it down to. And it's just a constant thing. I think the more you talk to other professionals in your niche or your industry, the more insight you're going to get on that. And it's a constant thing. So don't feel bad if you don't get it right away, because it's a learning experience. And again, I'm not going to talk about finding clients because I'm going to cover that more in the marketing and storytelling class, which is going to be the third one that we do. So let's talk more about when you have the client, what to do. I think one of the best pieces of advice I got is that clients don't, when dealing with new clients don't go for the best option. They go for the least risky option. So when dealing with a new client, you haven't had that experience yet of working with them. They haven't worked with you. They can see from your portfolio kind of what you can do for them, but they don't know specifically what you can do for them. And that's your initial kind of audition for creating a track record with them that will eventually instill that confidence in you, in them, of you. But in the beginning, they're just going to go with the least risky options. So one of the things that I tell people, and it's not there's a few people that disagree with me, but I am a strong believer that you should not be posting your pricing at all. If you really feel like you have to, you can do one of those like starting at, X amount, but by already posting your pricing, you're already giving up like a negotiation tactic. I think the main goal is to get a one-on-one with the client, because every client need is different. Every client has different needs, and they might know what they want, but they don't always know what they need. If they knew what they need, they'd do it themselves, essentially. So your job is to convince them first of all, to convince them what they need and why you can provide that for them. So that's also another reason why I stray away from doing hourly rates. I don't give away my rates to anybody. I don't do hourly rates. I do project-based pricing, because again, if I was to just put on my website, like I've done these videos for people I call identity videos, which is basically just like telling the story of their brand and going deeper behind the people behind the business. If I was to just post on my website, like, identity videos, $5,000, and then I get like one brand that has like 2 employees working for them and one that has like 15, and they want interviews of all of their employees, that's already a major difference in the work that's going into it. And another thing is, one of the best, negotiation tactics you can have is, if somebody asks you for your rate, just rebuttal with asking them what their budget is. If you examine a job and I'm like, I can do this video for, 5,000, but they have 8,000 to spend, you're leaving $3,000 on the table. And that's not to say that, you can pocket 3,000 more. It's not always about the profit. But now if I have an extra $3,000 to go towards a video, now all of a sudden I can raise the value of the production. I can hire assistants, I can hire extras, I can rent whatever gear I need to make that actual production more valuable. And it gives an opportunity for me to showcase what I can do with bigger budgets, which then in turn, if you get enough of those and you knock it out of the park, you get more of those opportunities coming in. And then you're scaling your business just by a simple thing of not giving out the first price. Once you give out a number, that's the anchor number. And everybody on both sides of that negotiation are working off of that number. So you never want to be the first person to give that number out. And then your value isn't just in the deliverables that you provide. Your value is in essentially being a problem solver for clients. So even if I get a client, and there's various clients, there's, clients that are looking for just the cheapest option. Honestly, if you're sitting there and you're trying to prove your worth to those clients, most of the time at the end of the day, it's not really worth it. They're just looking for the cheapest price. It doesn't matter what value you bring, what year you have, what proven track record you have. They're just looking for the lowest price. But even a no from somebody, like some people want to spend more money, they just don't have the budget. So even a no, you can turn into a win for yourself. I've had clients that are just upfront with me, like, that's a little bit out of our budget. We'd really like to work with you, but we just can't afford that. I refer them to friends, or like maybe even somebody I don't know that's like an up and comer that could use the experience and everything. That not only is you sharing the wealth with other creatives in the area, but that's showing them that you're a reliable source that they can trust to, like, I'm not just sending them off, good luck. I hope you find what you're looking for. You're giving them a solution to a problem that they came to you with. So they're going to remember that. And then, maybe I refer them to somebody and they're cheaper than me. Maybe they're the same price as me. But at the end of the day, I think that's always good, because the client is going to start seeing, if they go with somebody cheaper, maybe one of two things happens. Either that person does a good job or they do a not so good job. So I think the client is going to see either way that adding more money, investing more money into that thing that they're looking for, whether it's video marketing, photography, whatever it may be, is beneficial, because then they're going to get a better end product and they're not going to be wasting their time. They're not going to be wasting their money. Or they go to somebody and they shop around to like 5 different places and they realize everything is the same price. And they're like, I guess we just need to, as a company, invest more money in this. And that's great for all creatives, because then if I raise my rates, you get to raise your rates, they all get to raise their rates. And across the board, that industry in that area gets more respect, and you're going to have to fight less during the negotiation phase, because they're shopping around realizing like, oh, I guess this is just what this costs. It's not like now all of a sudden there's the cheapest option. So even those cheapskate clients have to really realize that this is an investment. And if you want quality stuff for what you're putting in, you gotta pay the money. On my notes shut off here on me. Yeah. So basically, I mean, you're, like I said, you're a problem solver at the end of the day. If you can't do it yourself, don't just disregard the client. Send them off to somebody, whether it's your friend, whether it's somebody you just want to help out, because that just makes everybody win. And I'm a huge believer in collaboration over competition. Like, nobody that does video in New Bedford is my competition, and I'm not their competition, because we could have the same job, same tools, same client, and that client is going to get 2 very different videos. And that's the beauty of being a creative entrepreneur, is you get to put so much of yourself into your work that it's unique, and there's room for all of us at the table, and there's enough for all of us to eat. So that scarcity mindset, in my opinion, doesn't exist for creative entrepreneurs, because we're all bringing this creative perspective to the table that a client going with any one of us is going to win, and then we're all going to win as an industry. And I mean, that's pretty much all I have for the negotiation parts of it. Like I said, we'll get more into specifics with the Q&A. The last little bit I have is investing. I think the best investment you can make is investing in yourself. At the end of the day, whether you end up hiring employees, hiring help, you are your business. So invest in yourself. And that doesn't always mean money. You might have to just invest time. The more time you take to refine your skills and sharpen your sword, the better you're going to be, and the more value your business is going to bring. The more stuff I learn, the more knowledge I can pass on to people that come work with me and things like that. So any time you take to refine your skills is only going to increase the value of your business. And even, I've taken jobs sometimes where I'm not getting paid nearly what I normally charge, but it's an opportunity for, like, just recently, I just did a pilot episode for a comedy series. And it wasn't a big budget production, but I got to work with industry professionals and I got to set foot and really get a foot in the door in that industry, because that's where I want to take my business to. So that is an investment. And because I've done my work to kind of, even though people are saying I still don't charge enough, but to kind of value myself properly, I'm in a position where I can take on a job like that that's going to guide my business in the direction I want to go to without suffering a loss, because I'm already, I've had money saved up for that or whatever the case may be. But that's what I mean when I say investing. And then if I could kind of boil it down to one line, focus on the systems more than the goals. If you have a goal of like, I want 10 more 10 more clients this month, don't focus on that number of 10. Focus on, okay, once a week, I'm going to go into businesses and drop off my business cards. Once a week, I'm going to go to a networking event. Once a week, I'm going to go, cold email people and just get my portfolio out there, whatever it may be. Focus more on the systems that are going to get you to those goals. Goals are good to have and they're good to aim for, but it's not what's going to you're kind of putting pressure on yourself and it's not going to really help you accomplish those goals. So focus more on how you're going to get there rather than what the destination is. And how are we doing on time, Marianella? I think I came in under. I think that's pretty much, all I have to say. I just really want to get to the question and answer portion, because I think that people will have a lot more specific things to ask. So you want to open it up to that now?
If you're ready, I do have 2 questions in the chat. So Tia says, how do you balance profit generating art with passion projects?
How do I balance generating? Well, look, one of the biggest kind of walls that I hit when I'm trying to explain to my friends and everything about why they should turn their passions into their careers is that, they're afraid that they're going to lose that passion or they're going to lose the magic of making that art because it's going to feel like a job. And I think the mistake comes in where you're taking that idea of a job, which has inherently bad connotations to it, and injecting that into your art, almost like tainting your art. And I think you need to look at it the opposite way, where it's like, we've all had those jobs that we hate showing up to on Monday. Like, there's no avoiding it, but you somehow found a way to motivate yourself to continue, even though you hate being there. Now, imagine if, you run into a situation where you're working and not enjoying what you're doing, but it's still your passion. So at the end of the day, once you push through that, on the other side is, better jobs, more projects that your heart is actually in. So in terms of balancing that, I think it's just accepting the reality that whether you love or hate your job, you're going to have things that you need to do to pay the bills. But I think refining those systems, like I said, finding your value, making sure that your profit margin is realistic, but also you're not shortchanging yourself. If there's money left on the table, like, you can charge whatever you want to charge and you can take whatever profit margin you want to take. But at the end of the day, it's what the client is willing to pay. So if you're only charging, again, like $5,000, but the client is willing to spend 10, ask for 10, ask for 9, because the more you get up front, especially if the client is already willing to charge, to pay that, the more you're going to get in the reserves. And that'll make it so that when you do take a passion project or a passion project opportunity falls in your lap, you don't have to even make a decision based off of, well, will this make me money now? Will it make me money later? You can just take it because that's what you want to do. And I think that also goes back to my question of, how do you define success? If you want to take more of those passion projects, then I would say put extra work into refining the processes that make you the money, the proven, things. Whether I hate doing weddings, but I'm not going to not do weddings because I know there's a lot of money in it. And that's going to enable me to do more of the stuff that I want to do. So I think it's just refining those processes.
Okay, I have another question here. There are saturated markets. How do you remain competitive?
It's collaboration over competition for me. There's so many times where I've gotten a job where I can bring my friends along and all of a sudden we're all winning. Nobody can do what I do, and I can't do what other people do because this industry is so unique. I think I think maybe more than just concentrating on how to stay competitive is how can is put more of yourself into your work. How can I be unique? How can I give something to clients that no one else has because it's me? And I think if you focus more on that, people will see that. And maybe you're not going to work with every single client in the area. Maybe you're not going to work with all your dream clients, but the more of yourself you put into your work and the more that reflects in your work, the more you're going to attract the people that you're looking for. Your vibe attracts your tribe. So the more you put yourself out there, the more those people are going to seek you out. And then at that point, you're not fishing for clients. It's just these clients are coming and finding you.
I have another question here from Paula. How do you decide what to put into a project before you give the pricing that allows you to take the project to the top of its creative outcome?
If I was to price, like say one of you in this room came to me, you have a video in mind, whatever it may be, it's the cost of basically what I do so that I eventually, make a return on my investment of buying a camera, buying all the gear that I have. I would take, okay, this is what it costs to rent the camera that I have or the gear that I have that I'm going to use for this particular shoot. So I take all of the rental costs for that as if I didn't own any of it. And that gets put in as like an initial fee. Like that's just in every single video project I do, that's already baked in. Then you go into the hourly thing. And again, I don't give out hourly rates, but I have hourly rates for myself. Your rates are for you. Your pricing is for your clients. So figure out, your cost for the gear that you bought, whatever tools you need, whatever materials you need for a job, all of your cost from expenses, whether it's stuff that you already own or stuff that you need to rent for that job, take that, then add in the hours and what you feel, given your skill level, your abilities, what you are worth, taking all that stuff and molding it into this final product for the client. And then decide what profit you want to make on that. I think generally speaking, if you have no idea with numbers and everything like that, one, to find your rate, your hourly rate, talk to peers, talk to other people that are in your field that have been doing it a lot longer than you, and they'll give you better insight on the exact specifics. As far as profit, I think generally speaking, take the total cost and add at least 10 to 15% just for profit. There's no shame in adding money literally just as profit, because we all need profit to continue scaling our businesses and stay in business. I think that's another thing that creatives do is like they feel like asking for more money or this or that is like wrong, and it's not at all. Like we are a creative business, but we are still a business at the end of the day. And you just take all that, basically all the money that it costs to do that production, all the money that you feel you're worth for giving your, expert advice and your skills and your knowledge, and then whatever you want for profit. And that's kind of the formula. And that's another one of those things where you're not going to figure that out right out the gate. It's going to take years of practice. I've been in this for 3 years and I'm still learning.
Samantha said you could share the CPA plug.
It's so full disclosure, I'm lucky and my uncle does my taxes, but he's retiring soon. So I don't know if I can give the CPA plug, but I'll come up with a list of references and stuff from him if it's not him or if it's other people, and do that. I forgot to mention too, but at the beginning of this, consider this kind of like an experimental class. I'm working with a friend of mine where we're going to try to bring this type of thing to like a longer form so that we're not just, on a Zoom meeting and things like that. So make sure you follow New Bedford Creative, make sure you follow me, and we'll post updates on all of that stuff if we don't get to, your questions today.
If anyone here has recommendations on CPAs, accountants, or bookkeepers, and we're specifically looking for people who are not only talented at what they do and their expertise, but have experience working with creatives, please send it to me or Marianella. We will be making a list. The other question that came up in the chat. Let me refer to Deb's first. Is the ArtNet grant taxable income? Yes, any income that you receive is taxable income. So please be aware of that, which is why we want you to be keeping track of all of your expenses, so that when it comes to tax time, you can, most of that can be written off. Will the New Bedford Creative offer a tax course? So we partnered with Practice Best Practice, which is another free training series that's run by Den Santoro. And there are 2 tax courses on their website that we can send links out to everyone. If we get enough requests, we can see about doing another course, another peer-to-peer session with taxes when that time comes.
And I think just to piggyback off that, I think, like I said, if you refine those processes, that's going to make it so that you're not scrambling when tax season comes around in April. Do position yourself in a way where you're going to be able to take care of that stuff as the year goes on. Like, for example, with every contract that I have in my contract, it's stipulated that, and again, you are the determiner of however you want for a down payment, but I make all of my clients give me a 1/3 of the total budget down payment, and that immediately goes to my taxes. And then that way, when I bill them, when I invoice them for the remaining balance, I know that all of that is profit and my taxes are already taken care of. Now, you do that with every single project. When it comes time for tax season, you're set. It's not going to surprise you. The number's not going to surprise you. It's already there. And if anything, with a good CPA and the write-offs that you may not know about and everything, that number is going to be even lower than you projected. So I think it's just, refining those systems and processes that you have, and that'll really position you in a good thing at the end of the year. You don't want to be scrambling when April rolls around. Believe me, it's tough.
Circling back around to what Ethan was talking about earlier, I've said a number of times, there is no amount of money that you can ever pay me to commute to Boston every day, for example. So Ethan was saying he hates doing weddings, but if the price is right, he might do it. But at the same time, he doesn't publish his prices. So I guess my question for you, Ethan, is do you have then a price in mind for yourself, whether it be like an event rate or an hourly rate, where I don't really want to, but if they pay me X number of dollars, I guess I'll do it?
Yeah, I think it's important to find out like what your lowest amount acceptable would be. Like anything lower than this and I'm taking a loss, to have a starting point. And then there's so many factors that go into it, right? Like honestly, if I was full blown doing weddings now, I probably would do one of those, like starting at whatever. And that way it still opens the door for a one-on-one conversation, so that we're identifying the client's specific needs and estimating a cost around that. But, it is nice to have an idea of what you may be spending, but you also don't want to box yourself in. So I would say at the very least, or the very most, do the like starting at whatever price. But yeah, I mean, I do. So I have that, like, this is the lowest amount possible. And then other factors go into it. Like if I take this job and it's lower, am I going to make, good connections? Am I going to start driving my business more towards the industry that I want to be in? Like if I wanted to, all of a sudden do like restaurant videos, and a really high profile restaurant in Boston wants to work with me, but they're not paying my usual rates, do I take that opportunity because it's more in line with where I'm trying to drive my business? That's when you kind of take all those factors into consideration, because again, it's that investment that you make, and it's not always money. Sometimes it's that time, and it's like, how good is this return on investment? Like having this video on my profile, what's the return going to look like, even if it's not monetary for that? So there's so many factors that go into it, but yeah, I mean, you definitely have like a lowest rate possible. Like I'm not leaving my house for anything less than X amount of dollars. And again, that's the beauty of doing this, is you're kind of in control of all that. If you don't want to commute to Boston every day and there's no amount of money that, people can pay you for that, then it is what it is. That's what you decide to do.
Thank you. I think it's a great point about the intangibles that I didn't think about. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it's like you got to just see like, what is it? What if it's not money, what is in it for me that's going to make this worth my time?
Well, I'd just like to say, Ethan, you've been spot on with everything that you've said, man. And we share a lot of perspectives, and that's been kind of refreshing. So thank you for that. And kudos to learning all that in 3 years, because it took me about 10 to figure out a lot of that stuff that you said. But, you know, that's my comment is that, you know, pretty much everything I've learned in the industry is what you covered, and good for you for getting to it quicker than the rest of us. So, I look forward to collaborating with you in the future.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Me and Angel shot some things in your building before, and it was dope. So I'm excited to see what you do with that space too. But yeah,
a lot of ideas, things that I've been kind of, and that's another thing about being an artist, and is a lot of the ideas that we have, we think we're crazy until we find somebody that shares those perspectives, and you're like, oh, okay, finally somebody who gets it the way that I do. So, you know, I appreciate that as an artist as well, who, you know, kind of learn on the go as we go through it. That's how you figure it out. So, I appreciate your perspective, and thank you for your time.
Likewise. Yeah, I've been lucky to have like great mentors, and I think it's also just like that attitude of collaboration over competition. Like I don't gatekeep anything. I'll share all my information with people. Like if they want advice on pricing, maybe I'm not going to give out my exact rate or anything like that, but I'll sit with people and I'll give them all the knowledge that I have, because that's the best thing about being a creative entrepreneur or an entrepreneur, is that none of us can do what each of us does. We're all unique. We all bring a unique perspective to this industry and to clients, where, like I said, I mean, they could get a video from me, from you, from the guy down the street. They're going to get 3 different videos for the same project. And that's the best part of it. And I think the more we embrace that idea, the better we're all going to be. Yeah, rising tide, you know, raises all boats and all that good stuff.
Catherine is asking, how do you politely turn someone down who has offered an amount of money that's way too low for you?
If somebody's just really trying to like lowball me, you're just like, thank you. You know, I appreciate you reaching out to me and everything. I unfortunately am not able to take on a job for that price, but let me refer you to some people that I know that may be able to help you. And even in the back of your mind, if you know that it's going to be the same price, just do it anyway, because you're giving somebody else a chance to do that one-on-one negotiation. And you're, like I said, if you do that, and then the person that they went to is the same price as you, and then they refer them to somebody else, and they keep going around this merry-go-round, they're going to eventually realize, like, shit, I got to just spend more money on this because it just costs more. And then they'll stop, you know, wasting everybody's time. Because at the end of the day, the only clients I would say to avoid are the people that are really like, you know, just cheapskates. Like there's clients out there that would drive 100 miles just to save $5. So you don't want to do, there's plenty of people to do business with out there. Don't ever prove yourself. If you're sitting there and they're like, well, why does it cost this much? Because I have to do this and then I have to do this. If you're doing that, you're already wasting your time. You should just, again, wish them well, here's some referrals, and move on to the next one.
I mean, I guess I could just piggyback on that and how to turn a no into a yes. And so if they're offering you $5,000, but you know your minimum is $10,000, how do you don't want to try to have to justify your, creative worth, but like, how do you talk them up into, before they shop around and realize actually that is the price, but like, how do you keep it for yourself, but maybe talk somebody into seeing how much you're worth and turning the no into a yes?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few different ways to do that. I think one of the most effective ways that I found is kind of, being open to meeting them in the middle and being like, okay, look, you wanted all of this for this price. I can't give you all of this for this price, but I can. And then you start picking apart everything that they requested, all the things that they want. We wanted 20 interviews. Well, I can do 5 interviews. So pick like 5 of the best people. And then you're either going to get them refining what they want and making not only less work for you, but more targeted work. Like, what if I interview 20 people and I realize I only want to use 5 of them? Like the other 15 were just not great on camera. You're kind of putting it in the ball in their court to sacrifice what they're asking for to meet the price that they're willing to pay. So, I want a Ferrari, but I only want to pay 20,000 for it. Like, that's not going to happen. I can give you this nice Honda, but that's it. And you got to make that compromise. So you got to kind of serve that ball back and put it back in their court. Like, listen, for this price, I can give you this and this and this. Do we have a deal with that? And then if they want to add more, then that's when the negotiation really gets back and forth. But if they're willing to compromise, I think that's all. I think if you also do your job of giving them what they need and not just what they want, they'll start realizing that maybe they're packing this with more stuff than they actually need. And this might be a little bit off topic, but a great example is like this potential client came to me and she initially wanted like, all right, we're going to do like a interview, sit down interview, me and this other person, and we just want you to roll on it. And then like a 20-minute interview, and then we'll just post that up. And I literally was like, if I'm going to do that, and it's just going to be like, camera 1 on you, camera 2 on you, camera 3 wide, like people are going to tune out eventually. So why not just do a podcast episode? Save your money, just record it as a podcast episode. You don't need me. And like, it was almost like I was turning down the job, but then I got the client thinking like, oh, like that's a good point. People are going to tune out. And then that's what, I give them a little bit of time to marinate in that. And then I'm like, if you're looking to do video marketing, this is the more effective way to do it. If you're speaking about happy clients that took your program and they ended up, changing their lives, show happy people, smiling faces, people in the classroom, in your classroom with you teaching, stuff like that. And then they started realizing all the stuff that they didn't know they needed. So I think that's one of your jobs as like the negotiator, is to show them, is to take what they want and then serve it back to them with like what they actually need to accomplish that. And the questioning should always be geared towards finding out what their like root problem, I guess, is, or their root goal is. Just like really ask questions. If you're confused about something, you're unclear about something, just keep asking questions. There's no such thing as asking too many questions. Because the better idea you get of what they want, the better you can mold an action plan to give them what they actually need.
I was asking, how did you start?
I was one of the lucky ones that got into filmmaking early, fell in love with it. I was always picking up like the family recorder on vacations and like filming stuff. And then I got to high school. I got into skateboarding with a bunch of my friends. We were just filming all the good times. Like literally, I had no plan, no aspirations to go to college, none of that stuff. I just wanted to skate and hang out with my friends and record the good times. And then I just started falling in love with that process so much that I was like, all right, let me go to college for this. Then I went to college, and that's a whole nother class, because college isn't always right for creatives. But I think knowing that passion ahead of time, and then eventually after college, finding out that I could actually turn this into a career. And then, the rest is history. That's the very short version. But for me, it was telling stories. So anytime there's a compelling story, no matter what the genre is, no matter what the subject is, if there's a compelling story to be told, I'm there, and that's my favorite thing to do. And, it's just trying and living life. I'll get to the mistake question, but I wanted to answer the LLC question first. I am not the best person to ask about this because I have yet to form an LLC, but I think, again, my goal right now is to get a buddy of mine to work with me and basically become my partner, and then turn my freelance one-man operation into like a full-blown production company. And at that point, I'm going to need an LLC because I'm responsible for other people and things like that. I don't want to say you don't need an LLC when you're freelancing, but you don't need an LLC when you're freelancing. You're yourself. So do things like, get workers insurance, things like that to cover yourself as an individual. An LLC is more for when you have business assets outside of your own individual stuff. So like, I don't have an office space. I work out of my spare room. My spare room is my office. If I was renting a building, I would want an LLC. If I have employees on salary, I want an LLC, things like that. And I mean, there are like bigger productions and bigger companies that you can work in collaboration with that require people to have an LLC. So it's definitely something you should think about, but talk to somebody much more well equipped for that than me, because there is also a difference between LLC and S Corp. And I know that like S Corps don't pay as much in taxes, but they're not as like, I don't really know the details, but I would say once you're bigger than just working on your own, start considering an LLC.
Paula says, what was the mistake you regret most?
I'm a firm believer in like no regrets, because everything that I did in my life brought me to this moment right now. But I think one of the things I'm saddest about, and I try to fix now, is I now, with these classes and everything else that I do as a creative, I try to be the person that I wish I had when I first started. Somebody to like guide and give advice to freely and openly, help out, give opportunities to, things like that. I like when I first got out of college and I got into a job, I had it rough. I had like a horrible boss, all that kind of stuff. I don't regret any of it, because again, it made me who I am today and brought me to where I am today. But I try to make up for it by being better for people coming after me.
I think I just want to mirror what Mikey said earlier. I've been in this industry for almost exactly 10 years now. And I worked with Ethan about 3 years ago at YOU when we were doing like a little promo for the YOU, and when Ethan was freelancing part-time. And you today, Ethan, compared to the you of 3 years ago, I'm so impressed by you. So thank you for doing this. Thank you for giving back. Thank you for coming back. And we all appreciate you.
Well, thank you. That really means a lot. I like doing what I do, and I like helping other people get to that. Like I said, I want to kill the idea that like artists can't make money and we can't become businesses. It's complete bullshit. We not only can you do it, but never in human history has it been easier to get yourself out there, to market things yourself without relying on other people. And, you know, look at the past 3 to 5 years. Finally, the people in positions of power and positions of giving money to cities and states and things like that are finally recognizing what us as creatives have always known, that the arts is a valuable, not even commodity, it's a necessity for human, you know, life and a thriving, fruitful life. And people are finally starting to recognize it and give the arts in all of its mediums the respect that it's been deserving for so long. And I just want to make sure that, you know, I help as many people along the way to catch that wave and ride it out for the rest of their days.
And Paula, one more question. Do you use copyright?
General copyright laws do a pretty damn good job at protecting you. There's like when I do a project for a client, I own all of the raw footage and I can do anything I want with that, whether or not it's stated in my contract. I put it purposely in my contract just so that if anybody tries to, you know, well, we hired you to do this, so we deserve the raw footage, any of that stuff. No, that's not how it works. But I plainly put it in my contract so that there's a thing that they were supposed to read and sign that agreed, this is what general laws cover. This is mine. I can do whatever I want with these interviews. You agreed to be on camera. I can do whatever I want with that. The end product, so the edited final video, is theirs, and then they can do whatever they want with that. So if they want to extract a clip from that and use it for something else, they're well within their rights to do that. I know for like photographers, it's a lot harder because you're working with one image, whereas I'm working with like raw files and things like that. But I think what's more important is like keeping the files, you know, educating yourself on what metadata is and how you can use that to prove that you own the original copy of that work, and things like that. Just do your research with the laws and everything like that. But I would say, without knowing anything, general IP laws are really good at protecting the artist's work. It's just how to enforce those, I guess, is where things kind of get sticky.
I think we're good. Thank you, Ethan. Actually,
If I gifted, yeah, if I was gifted a wedding video, again, I think this is why it's important to have contracts, even if it was
Oh,
done
yeah.
for free. Have it written in a contract. We are doing this work. This is what expected of us. This is the final product, and we're doing it for $0. I would even go so far as to give an invoice that shows you paid $0 for it, because that's when it gets into a sticky situation. Then you're just going by hearsay. I mean, if you have like an email paper trail and things like that, fine, you can prove that. But to avoid all of that mess and all that headache in the first place, just make contracts. You don't need a lawyer to write up contracts. There's plenty of drafts out there. Even if you have to pay a couple of bucks for it, it's worth it. Get contracts for every single thing that you do as a professional. I cannot stress that enough.
Yeah, it absolutely should be in writing for sure. Could I use it on my website?
Again, it's in my mind, they made you a final product. You own that final product, but without a contract, without proving that, it's your word versus theirs.
Because I'm a photographer. So a family member of mine had a wedding where their photographer, videographer didn't show up. They didn't want me to do it in the beginning because they had someone else to do it. The person didn't show up. I came in, offered my services, did a little something extra because it was family. And I had a few people that came in actually doing the secret, like, bride and groom message video. So they had no idea it was happening. And it became this like awkward discrepancy. Like we already had the verbal agreement that, this was for free. They had no idea about the video. They happened to see the video, and I gave them the footage of the actual product being finalized after all the editing. And it became a little weird thing where they kept saying that, oh, I can't get the video off of the file, which this was like a process of 2 years. I had gave them the video and they didn't know what they was doing, I guess, on the computer on how to bring it up. So they had the footage, but it became this like, oh, well, I want my video. And I'm like, well, it's kind of confusing because as a family member, I wasn't paid for this. We had the agreement that I was there. This is something like, you didn't know about. They verbally agreed that I can use it. I know that I should have it in writing, and I do have witnesses that was there, but I just wanted to make sure, like, say if I was to build my site and use a clippet of that, would there be any discrepancy with that?
No, not at all. Even though clients own the final product, it's like a derivative of your work. So, right, like if I do a final product for somebody, I still own all that raw footage. So even if I'm not directly ripping their video, I can take that raw footage and recreate what I did for their final video. So you can just use it because you produce that work. It's your work, especially when it comes to portfolios and things like that. Again, I add all that into my contract just as a courtesy so that there's no miscommunication. There's no like me expecting them to already know this, but general IP laws, I believe, protect you where the final work it's your final work, unless there's something like a special case where you sign like an NDA because it's like you're doing like I've done before. I worked for myself. I did videos where it was internal compliance videos, so the only distribution of that video is within the organization, so it's like the do's and don'ts of the workplace and things like that. Those were made known ahead of time. You got to sign this NDA. You can't use this stuff for projects, whatever, but that needs to be stated beforehand because the default setting is you produce the work, you own just as much right to it as the client that paid for it.
Okay, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, no problem. There was just one final question with what use rights does an individual in the video have? What does that mean? Like somebody that's featured in the video, if they can use the video? Whoever paid for it has the rights to it. They can decide if that person uses it. That's fine. At the end of the day, the final product is theirs and they can decide to do whatever they want with it. Otherwise, like I can't like give if I do a final edited video for the YMCA, I can't give that final edited video to like New Bedford Creative to use for whatever they want. I can use it for my own purposes to show in my portfolio that I've done this work. I've worked with the YMCA, but they own the rights to that final product. So it's totally up to them for that.
Thank you again, Ethan, for all your hard work. And thank you again for your participation.